Alright, everyone, we start with this guy named Mulmont Carl, a mercenary, asking if anyone knows where they are, but no one does. Next, an older carpenter named Lyle steps up, looking just as baffled as you'd expect. Then there's Gritty, a chubby shopkeeper sweating enough to fill a swimming pool, who has no idea what is going on. Even Jenna, the red-haired lady living out in the woods, feels just as lost as everyone else, proving that confusion is a feeling we all share. Finally, a quiet, dark-haired young man named Eyelid Han, who is the future hero but now just an unsuspecting farmer in the crowd, speaks up. The whole crew is huddled inside this giant, crumbling stone castle, looking like they accidentally stepped into the wrong video game, and no one knows if they are dreaming or have been kidnapped. It turns out they're all from Tonia, and while one guy thinks mages kidnapped them to be lab rats, Lyle suggests group therapy, which gets shut down because Mulman just starts screaming. Suddenly, there's a flash of pink light and a tiny girl with red eyes and a creepy grin pops into existence, shouting that her master has cracked open a time rift and it's time to fight. Everyone is left speechless when that sparkling gothic Lolita fairy suddenly appears, leaving you wondering what on earth to say next. One of the men stammers, asking who she is, so she introduces herself as the Cell Fairy who runs this place and warns them to behave or they'll be in serious trouble. Mulman steps forward to demand to know if she's the kidnapper, but she just brushes him off as if it's none of his business, and he can't believe the nerve she has on this fairy. Mulman gets angry, calls her shameless, and grabs his sword to make her talk, but he's about to make a huge mistake. Isel glances back with pure boredom, telling him to stop being stupid or risk his life, and that's how we know trouble is coming. Mom ignores her warning and powers up with glowing eyes as he pulls out his blade, while Cell just grins wickedly, sighing at how foolish he is. He lunges forward, shouting that he'll teach her a lesson in manners, which turns out to be his last words. Before he could even move, his face twisted into pure horror, signaling that this was going to end badly for him. A system message pops up, saying Mulman has rushed back into the goddess's embrace, proving that his fierce fighting spirit will live in memory for eternity, or at least for the next 5 minutes. His body goes slack, a gush of blood spraying from his neck as he crashes to the floor, and yikes, that's a lot of red. Then another message flashed with the cause of death. He literally stressed himself out trying to attack her and ended up committing suicide. Isel glares at the scared crowd and laughs, reminding them that if they just listened instead of acting foolish, they wouldn't be in this deadly mess. With a crazy grin, she warns that anyone who touches her will die instantly, claiming it is just self-defense, though it sure feels that way. The crowd goes wild with fear until a cell blocks their path, and she gives them one clear order: obey her, fight hard, and win, which sounds simple enough. A system message flashes, announcing the party is ready, so drag and drop the heroes to get started. Another window shows the names of Party 1, Lyle, Ranto, Marlon, Kelkert, and Jackson, while Isel looks up with a grin and shouts, "The master has finally started," before turning to the crowd to command them to get ready as she tears open a crack in space and time, clearly loving every second of it. Suddenly, a glowing gate appears in the air and hums with power, looking like a one-way ticket to a very bad time. The 5 brave souls from the first party freeze in pure terror, and honestly, I wouldn't blame them for a second. The cell grins and points at the glowing portal, so don't go inside if you want to avoid dying like that last guy. Just as she's ready to let them go, our dark-haired farmer stops her and says to wait. He points out that even the star heroes lack basic weapons and asks if she is really sending them out as a suicide squad, while my guy is using his brain. Jenna watches with curiosity as Han explains that since a hero just died, giving them weapons is the least they can do, a point he makes with perfect logic. As Cell takes a quick look at Mulmont's body and stats, realizing he is only a 2-star beginner, she admits he is telling the truth. She whispers the bad news to her invisible boss, telling him the heroes are out of gear and acting like a support agent for a deadly game. She then suggests, how about summoning equipment for a smooth battle ahead, and even starts trying to sell you on the idea. Isel dives right into work, slamming her fingers on a glowing holographic keyboard that springs up in front of her, just like she's frantically ordering weapons from a sci-fi version of Amazon. A little tip pops up for the master to explain that heroes start with basic rusty swords, but their weapons will be set up for them automatically, making it basically a tutorial for the player. The system kicks off by summoning 10 pieces of gear in a row, which costs 50,000 gold. Suddenly, the results appear showing that Master Anything has found an iron sword, a low-grade bow, and a morning star, which is truly amazing loot and a massive game-changer. Lyle walks up to Han and asks if he knows anything about this strange place, but Han admits he hasn't been here long either, which isn't very comforting. Jenna watches him with wide eyes as Han explains that the only way to survive is to grab the weapons he just conjured right before the chaos begins. A man nervously asks what's starting. Han looks back and answers with a single word that turns out to be two. People dash toward the weapons, frantically grabbing them to fight back. The first group, now holding swords, spears, and maces, stands ready with faces mixed up with fear and grim determination. Lyle spots that Mulman's body has disappeared, but his cell screams at him to shut up and order everyone through the gate before he dares to touch the swirling blue energy, wondering what could possibly go wrong. Zap! The gate jolts them with a shock, and Isel, fed up, screams for them to stop dawdling and rush inside while she melts into a full-blown tantrum. As the group is pushed through the portal, Han grabs a rough wooden shield for himself, while Jenna quickly snatches up a bow and arrow. Jenna asks what's going on, and Han just says they need to walk into the arena and kill everyone inside, which sounds like pretty solid advice. Soon, a message pops up showing Marlin back in the goddess's embrace while our first friend from Party 1 has fallen. Hand curses under his breath while Jenna stares at him, confused and scared, as if welcoming him to the show. Suddenly, Death notices for Kelkard, Ranto, and Jackson come one after another like a rapid-fire pop, 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 as they crash to the ground like flies. Hen grimly remarks that must be why they only get 1 star, while Jenna, still confused, asks what happened, but he just tells her to be quiet, acting so cold about it. The last message confirms that the whole party is dead and Lyle is gone, so we've completely failed. Han calmly points out they've already been wiped out, but Isel is furious, yelling that the useless bastards took the first floor, so the system instantly assembles a new team with Han, Jenna, Dejil, Grit, and Kale on it, and now it's our turn. Isel shouts for the next group, and while Han tells Jenna it's their turn, she worries about the first group that isn't returning, and honestly, she's clueless. An old man named Dejil tries to crawl out of trouble by saying his arthritis is flaring up, but the cell calls his bluff by pointing out he was walking fine just a moment ago. The hen sits quietly while Jenna watches with worry, and right now, we are just watching everything happen. Isel finally loses her cool and screams at everyone to stop panicking and get ready. As they shove Gritty toward the portal, he grabs his stomach and cries out that it hurts, but the answer is a cold laugh. Sorry, buddy, there are no sick days in this deadly game. The party walks through the gate one by one with no way to turn back now. Jenna and the others step onto the new land, looking around in awe and fear because this place is definitely not Teia. The group stepped into a huge, dark temple where a giant glowing door stood at the far end, looking both grand and scary, while one person nervously asked what the glowing words on the archway said, even though the answer was right in front of everyone. Those glowing words are part of a challenge, and things are getting incredibly epic fast. The system message tells us we're on the first floor of the main dungeon, so let's climb that tower and save the world without any pressure at all. Another message flashes, the gate begins to open, and we get ready to go again. Han steps up, gripping his shield and sword, and shouts, "Don't freeze, here we go," as he leads the party charging into the blinding white light of the open gate, hoping this time works out better than last. They step out of the light into a new world of dry grass under a hazy sky. The group stands frozen in a barren, sun-scorched wasteland, looking utterly confused by such a drastic change of scenery. One of them asks where they are, and Han, gripping his sword, replies with a grim look, "Where else?" The system has issued a clear order for the first floor, crush every enemy until none remain. It's the battlefield, Han finishes speaking grimly, and right on cue, a horde of snarling, red-eyed level 3 goblins charges at them. Hen grits his teeth and tries to rally his terrified teammates, shouting that they'll die if they don't fight, but his words fall on deaf ears as his party members drop their weapons and flee in terror, leaving him to mutter that they are useless. Jenna shouts that the old man is faking his arthritis while he yells back that it's healed, and a system message warns that both of them are so scared their stats drop by 30%. The same weakening blow strikes the other two cowards, Gritty and Kale, slashing their power by 30%. As Han's useless friends try to run, they crash face first into an invisible wall, proving that there is no escape from the battle arena. Jenna, straggling at the back, screams in horror that their escape route is blocked by a wall. As the others panic, one groans about his back while another urgently begs, "Let me out, I really need to go." Dodgiel hammers away at the invisible wall in desperation to get out, and frankly, that's not a good look, my friend. Han turns to look at the pathetic scene behind him, a drop of sweat sliding down his face as he mutters, "How pathetic." "You said it yourself, buddy." Just then, Jenna called out his name, sounding like she'd finally found her backbone. She asks him the one question that matters, if we kill those goblins, can we get out, and she knows it's exactly the right thing to ask. Han quickly makes a plan, lets her use the bow, and tells her to shoot from behind while he fights them head-on, and when she agrees and they realize their useless teammates can't help, he coldly orders them to ignore the others and focus on the goblin horde charging with a horrifying screech. Here they come, Jenna shouts, signaling that it's time to act, but as they prepare to take the hit, Han realizes with a shock that he has never actually held a sword or shield before, meaning the whole thing was a lie and he's an absolute madman. But there is no time to hesitate, for the first goblin jumps with a blade swinging down. In a split second, he drops his real name, Han Seojin, revealing he's been tossed into a twisted game of pure luck, and let's be honest, his luck isn't exactly great. The goblin's weapon smashes down, and Han lifts his shield right in time to take the heavy hit. From the back line, Jenna watches with wide, determined eyes, ready to deal sweet damage. Meanwhile, the other three huddle uselessly against the invisible wall, offering me a very little help. The camera zooms out to reveal a shadowy room with a huge, carved stone door shut tight, and suddenly you wonder, what secrets are hiding behind door number 1? Let's rewind a moment, because there's a wildly popular gacha game called Pick Me Up. It sounds friendly, but don't be fooled, it's a mobile game by Mobius that's currently doing what it does best, making you wait. All you've got to do, folks, is scale a 100-story tower by gathering heroes and pretending you've got a plan. And here is our guy, Han Seojin, who was just another person logging in yesterday to face his daily dose of disappointment. He sneered, thrilled that this junk of a game finally had a real moment that made him feel love. Shiojin is a whale with terrible luck who has never caught a 5-star hero, but this new event offers a guaranteed 7-star pull that has already hooked him. But here's the thing about Pick Me Up, this game is played for keeps with some seriously hardcore rules. Rule number 1 is simple, if your 5-star hero dies, they're gone forever with no second chances, so a smart player always sends a team of cheap, disposable heroes to check things out first. At last, the dungeon gate swings wide, and the pain finally starts. In an instant, red warning signs pop up all around us, and we gamers know right away, this is trouble. Suddenly, fear grips the whole party, slashing their power by 30% while one of them already tries to run away, leaving the rest feeling utterly useless. Seojin doesn't care, thinking the heroes are just cannon fodder panicking before the fight even starts, until he realizes the boss is a glitching level 999 with a corrupted name, and Han just thinks it's a bug while you, sweet summer child, remain oblivious. In a split second, everything ends and the screen flashes, you lose, which was faster than expected. He's sure it's just a glitch because his whole scouting team vanished in one blast, making all their research useless. Now he's furious because they all died so quickly that he didn't even get to see a single attack pattern, turning perfectly good 1-star heroes into a total waste. Suddenly, a scary grinning face with glowing red eyes flashes on his screen, and the artist is told to calm down. The words burned into the screen, and oh no, that wasn't a good sign. He freezes in shock, muttering to himself that this isn't a pattern but a real problem. He is sure the game is done, but a deep wrongness lingers, his thoughts fading into darkness as he panics and shouts into nothingness, unable to see a thing. A mysterious system message pops up out of nowhere to ask him to make an account, leaving him, and us, completely confused about what is actually happening. A message pops up, asking him to pick a name that's between 2 and 6 letters long, just like the usual character creation steps. But before he can even think, a name gets typed in for him, leaving him wondering if that's really all there is to it. The system just hits yes for him, ignoring his inner panic, leaving him with no say. He screams into nothingness while I stay away, because that thing is moving all by itself. A bright message flashes to welcome him to the world of Pick Me Up, but it's far from the party he had hoped for. And naturally, it pops up asking, will you start the tutorial, with the answer already checked for you. He can't do anything to stop it. He's no longer just a player, he's now a character named Hannah Slot with a fresh identity. He stands frozen in a burning town, gripping his sword as he stammers, "What, is this real?" Yep, it's very real, just as the tutorial begins explaining the strange new world of Tonia where humans and other species are forced to live together. An unknown enemy invaded, so the master had to scramble up the tower to save the world, all without any pressure at all. And many heroes will jump in to help him with this huge mess, and they can't wait to be part of the chaos. He finally wakes from his daze at a sudden noise and spins around. His first quest is here, beat up the goblins that invaded the town and get the grind started, buddy. He looks up and finds a real, live goblin monster, wondering what the strange message means before realizing it's just his new to-do list, Han. He's freaking out, thinking, this feels so real that it's about to get too real, but there's no time to panic because reality hits hard in this world. A goblin lunges at him with a dagger raised, looking so fierce that it's no longer just a tiny picture on a screen. His body moves on its own, instinctively raising the sword to block with a loud clatter and a shower of sparks. His arms shake from the blow, and you can almost hear the metal groaning under the pressure, proving he wasn't made for this kind of fight. Suddenly, a message appeared telling the fight would go on its own now, and we couldn't have been more grateful to our hero AI friend. He grunts in pain as his body keeps fighting back. His sword flashes bright to block the next strike. He screams with pure terror as his body is forced to land the killing blow. He can't bring himself to take a life, even though the game doesn't care about his hesitation and just awards him a level up as he stumbles away in shock. His eyes suddenly widen as he stares up at a strange yet familiar scene, wondering what's happening before the system prompts him to save a comrade before the next stage begins. The master gets to try the summon tab for free with 500 gems, so let's start pulling for that high-rank summon. He just whispers confusedly about what's going on, completely lost like a puppet stuck in the middle of his own favorite game. And then a brilliant golden light suddenly bursts out from the door right in front of him. A female knight in golden armor bursts from the light, bringing the 4-star hero Shei into the story as a great surprise from a free pull. The gears in his mind finally clicked into place, and the truth crashed into him with the force of a speeding truck. He thought, I must have been summoned like that, too, and then, ding, 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 we had a winner. As the night falls, Shei glares at him and demands to know who he is and why he called her, noting she's barely a rookie, but when Han Seojin stammers his name, she just rolls her eyes at the awkwardness, thinking their first meeting is off to a surprisingly good start. Suddenly, the system orders the master to drag the hero into a slot like a phone game, except this time it is real life. And just like that, Han, the 1-star hero, and Shei, the 4-star knight, are finally a team. And then, Han Seojin finally gets it. Their boss is a real-world player named Anything who's been sending them to dungeons, so it's time for round 2, which means Shei starts mocking his bad form while he shouts that this is his first time, and as she easily wipes out goblins and levels up to become the MVP, Han just sits there watching her solo the whole thing. But that was just the beginning of the trouble, and if you think this is bad, just wait until you see what comes next. The final stage is here, and the doors to synthesis, a way to make heroes stronger, have finally swung open. The system tells the master to click the synthesis tab, and Han's face goes pale with terror as he screams, I'm so screwed, just when a voice suddenly shouts, hey, you. It's a cell, go in fast, or master is waiting, she shouts, shoving him forward. Han stays silent for a moment, letting his thoughts race through his mind. He whispers the fairy's name, Isel, and she goes wild, screaming how he knows her name and who he really is. He explains who I am, but after Isel checks her book and finds I'm not the person she thought, she is totally confused and realizes I'm someone else entirely. She points at him and yells that he doesn't look like the picture, while he tells her to send him back even as he stays nice, and when she asks if he's from Earth, he snaps back that of course he is and should he be from Mars, showing just how sassy he is. The sudden truth sends Eel into a terrifying panic, her screams echoing as she wonders what just happened and fears she'll lose her mind. As the cell tries to shove Han through the portal, he screams that he'll die, but she insists he'll just be synthesized, which he knows is just a fancy word for death, until she finally shoves him inside. Han hits the floor hard, and Shei stares down at him with zero respect, muttering, so loud. Suddenly, the system shouts that the synthesis has begun. Han watches in horror as a blinding blue light explodes from his hands, and he realizes exactly what he is unleashing. He screams as his body fills with terrifying energy, and this is the moment he has always feared arriving. He knows exactly how to make a hero stronger by blending them with another, a trick he's used too many times before. In these harsh games where one hero must fall to let another grow stronger, it is a hard but honest deal. And as the hero uses people like him up to get stronger, they vanish completely, gone forever. It's just the simple math of a cheap 1-star hero facing off against a precious 4-star knight. He clenched his jaw as he accepted his death, wondering who would ever be foolish enough to downgrade a 4-star rank to a 1-star one. But then the impossible occurs, and Synth is done. Wait, what? Han's eyes fly open to see he's still alive, with blue energy swirling around him instead of vanishing. Alright, this is the moment, Shei says with a steady voice. He realizes in horror that Shei is the one fading away and screams in confusion, but she only smiles gently before vanishing with a final encouraging remark. I'll leave it to you, Han, she said, and then she vanished, turning into a pillar of light. Left alone and soaked in sweat, he stares in disbelief, wondering if his master is an idiot, because that's the only reason this could have happened. Back in the dungeon, the team is getting wiped out, a system message shouts that Grid has died, and another member falls just like that. The battlefield is a mess of chaos where goblins swarm everyone while Jenna screams for them to fight back. But somehow, he survived it all, and with fresh courage, he smashed his shield right into a goblin's face. He knows the master must have messed up because synthesis is just a drag-and-drop tool, so either he dragged the wrong hero or he just wasn't thinking. He lives because the master is, and he screams, "That's why this game is junk," turning to Jenna and yelling that only 2 more are left. Jenna shouts that she just caught one, but there's another one out there still waiting. Just as he's about to move, the final goblin leaps forward and bites right into his arm. He clenched his jaw against the pain, and suddenly his mind became sharp enough to see the truth. He had been dragged into this world just to be used as a useless one-star hero. He lets out a fierce roar, yelling, "You little monster," before smashing the goblin's head into a bloody mess to settle the fight. He still remembers the scary face-off with that level 999 bugged monster right before he was dragged to this place. He knows with certainty that thing dragged him here. A cold fury takes hold of him as he unleashes his rage, turning into a whirlwind of destruction on the battlefield because that thing messed with the wrong person. The fight is over, and Han stands there, completely drained, surrounded by the bloody mess with his weapons left on the ground. Jenna dashes over to him, pointing at his bleeding arm, but he just says it will heal once they get back. He thinks about the game, where there's hardly any control over the fighting since the heroes just battle on their own thanks to their AI. But a million people play it just to feel like a god watching the world. A huge watching eye suddenly appears in the sky, showing the player the master, the one who was once him. Ham looks up to the sky with a chilling smirk, asking the watcher, "Are you having fun?" because he was a player too, knowing every secret, strategy, hidden feature, and exactly how this game works. He wasn't just a player, he was Loki, the 5th best in the whole world. He stares up at the sky with burning eyes, vowing to keep going until the very last moment. A system chime rings out, declaring the stage clear and Jenna leveling up, which is exactly what she needs. The rewards are counted, 2,000 gold and crafting supplies, but the result screen shows a grim truth: 9 heroes died in a bloody battle, making Han the only MVP left standing after such a brutal fight. Only 2 cards are left for the survivors, Lat Han and Jenna, shrinking the whole party down to just the 2 of them. Alright, the next day has arrived and Han has finally stopped crying, so it's time to face the music, my friends. What a awful song it is, and he's stuck inside a gacha game as a 1-star hero, basically nothing but human trash. In this game, every hero must choose between just 2 paths to build their career. You could fight bravely and die a hero, or you could get turned into her protein powder inside the synthesis chamber. Since he's such a nobody, he's right at the front of the line to be trampled, not even worth the name of a side character, just plain fuel for the machine. Just look at these stats, his growth is hopeless, and he's running out of time before he turns into a smoothie. But our boy isn't giving up without a fight. He's got a 3-step plan to survive, get revenge, and find the exit. So he has to get stronger because, as he learned the hard way in the military, you either adapt or die. He realizes it isn't just about brawn, he has to straighten his thoughts to survive this nightmare. So, he taps into his lone wolf side, recalling the days he had to stand on his own, and it's time for the training montage. He grinds with all his life depending on it, because it really does, so just take a look at that sweat. Just as he gets lost in the moment, Jenna suddenly interrupts him, completely confused by what he's doing. Han never does that, but the man sharply retorts that he's training to kill monsters, which isn't exactly smooth. Jenna wasn't bothered by his bad attitude, she just told him she'd been looking for him. It seems she finally snapped last night and accepted the terrible truth. She shows off her skills by saying her father was a hunter, so she knows how to use a bow and won't get in the way. She knows that crying won't fix anything, so she keeps her tears inside. To prove her point, she nailed her target right between the eyes and then hit him with a big question: "You know how to survive, right?" Han grills her about her first rodeo, and she admits it was her first time while boasting about her archery skills. But Han holds a secret trick: he can peek at her stats, and what he sees tells a completely different story. Her stats might be low right now, but her special move and that first kill show she's got real potential. Plus, she's mentally tough and proves to be a real gem rather than a weakness. So he agrees to join forces, saying with a nod, "All right, I'll help you." She's so happy she's shaking his hand and telling him a story her dad told her about how strong friendship can be, which is just the cutest thing ever. And then, just like that, a message pops up on the screen. Goodwill went up, feeling just like a dating game except with way more death. They even get extra points for being together, which is just like a dating simulation. Han just hates those annoying pop-ups, proving he has no romance in his soul. Now that he has a party member, it's time to question the world's most irritating fairy, Cell. She suddenly pops in, grumbling about how busy she is, but Han reminds her that she just appeared right on time. She refuses to listen and tells him to just climb the tower if he wants answers, but Han ignores the outburst and asks if he's the only one who can see the status window. Isel instantly goes silent, trying to act cool, but her face gives her away as a level 257, and wow. And that settles it, he is the sole person who can read those messages. So he asks a chilling question, what if the master rage quits, and her answer is to just pray he never does, which is pretty yikes. Ham remembers how he ended up here, realizing his master isn't just a beginner but a fool who traded a 4-star hero for a 1-star. He knows the master can't just restart his account because the game is stuck to his phone, and there's no going back now. He nudges the fairy and jokes about time moving differently, only for her to scream in frustration, giving him the proof he wanted so he can grin smugly and call her a troll. He has learned that this angry little pixie can't hurt him unless he breaks the master's rules or fights back, so he decides to memorize each rule one by one because it's his only way to survive. Jenna, the only one who's been following the drama, finally asks what's happening, and Han gives her the short version, climb a 100-story tower for the master. She snaps the puzzle together fast, realizing it means fighting a ton of monsters, just as Han says is the reason for her training. She wonders if it's just them versus the world, but the master can call up more helpless people to make this mess even worse. Even though his choices matter, in the end they're just toys for some guy on his phone. After a long day of training, Han finds a neat little secret: food and supplies just appear out of nowhere every single day. Picture anything you desire magically appearing in a closet, except for guns and weapons, which simply won't work. He also learns a new truth: back as a player, he met heroes with equal levels but different strength, and now he finally understands why. They train hard to sharpen their skills instead of raising their stats, and that is exactly what he is doing right now. An observant master will soon realize that heroes fall into 3 categories: the mentally tough, the highly skilled, and the physically strong. Han lined up his shot for the 3rd round, and on the 3rd day of practice, the master finally returned to the game, so it was time to play. And look at that, the training worked, and he unlocked 2 new skills, basic sword and shield techniques, which is a great start. Han tells Jenna that the boss is online and likely about to call 3 more heroes to join the party. Then, right at point Q, 3 more heroes named Aaron, Toby, and Yelson get pulled into the game to join the nightmare. 2 strangers stumble in completely confused, one screaming, "You're in hell," while Jenna tries to warn them but they're too panicked to listen and just keep asking who she is. There's no time for introductions, the cell bursts in with a wild chant and tears open a portal to the 1st level. Han shouts at Jenna to grab her gear because it's time to go. A helpful tip pops up, warning them to grab a weapon before they end up stuck with a starter sword, just like a classic RPG mistake. The newcomers predictably start screaming and demanding to go home, but that's not how this works, friends. One of them even tries to attack the level 257 fairy, while Han just watches the disaster happen and tells Jenna to ignore their desperate pleas since he knows exactly what's going to happen next. And just like that, a flick of her wrist sent a shockwave that slammed the 3 of them backward. After Asel flashes a peace sign and tells them to have fun before running off, I can't help but laugh because she's the worst person I love. Suddenly, the party vanishes in a flash of light and finds themselves in a world where their only goal is to kill everything that moves. Han keeps things serious and asks Jenna if she's ready, while the other 3 are still trying to make sense of what just happened. They have touched down in an open field where a dangerous pack of goblins and prairie wolves is waiting to greet them. Just as we guessed, the 3 newcomers are instantly struck by a sudden wave of fear. Their abilities fade by half as they scream like monsters are chasing them. But his hand didn't shake a bit, he was completely locked in. Just then, a window suddenly appeared for Jenna, and she was absolutely terrified while her stats dropped right there in front of her. So our hero taps her on the shoulder, makes her scream, and then gives a deadpan look as if to ask, "Did you eat something bad?" before acting like a total jerk. She shouts at him, but he's already in charge, so you grab the goblins while he takes on the wolves, and now it's time to step up and lead. The plan worked, the system confirms she's no longer afraid, and Han turned to see the 3 guys still weeping in the corner, a useless bunch. The wolves lunged at him and Han stepped forward without a single second of doubt. A wolf leaps forward with its mouth wide open, ready to bite. Han screams with all his might and gets ready to take the hit. Bam! He slams his shield right into the wolf's face with a perfect block, sending the beast flying. But the wolf isn't giving up, and Han quickly sees his gear is useless, just like a soggy noodle. Even so, he clutches his shabby little sword, determined to make it count. His eyes begin to glow, he swings hard to knock it down, shouts that he has another one left, and then shouts, "Let's go." With a wild roar, he plunges his sword deep into the monster's neck for sure critical damage. But before he can catch his breath, another wolf lunges forward and snaps its glowing jaws onto his shield, leaving him no time to strike a victory pose. He grunted and dug his heels in, fighting to stay his ground against the beast's crushing bite. He manages to shove it away, creating just enough space for a counterattack, and now is his chance. His eyes begin to glow with that same creepy blue light, and as he swings his sword in a wild arc, blood splatters everywhere. Now that the wolves are gone, he turns his eyes to the goblins and gets ready to finish the work. But wait, where did all those goblins vanish to, when the only sound left on the battlefield was a deep, eerie silence? The goblins are already dead, their green bodies poked full of holes and turned into pin cushions by a hail of arrows. He sees Jenna panting but standing tall, teases that she turned the goblin into a hedgehog, and wonders how many arrows she fired while acting all flirtatious. He tells her to chill out since the place is already as quiet as a grave, and with a sigh of relief, she finally agrees. Suddenly, a system window popped up on screen to declare the stage clear, showing that both Han and Jenna had leveled up, but our hero Han was named the MVP. They even walk away with some sweet rewards for their hard work, like gold, iron, ore, and leather, which makes for a pretty good day's pay. Before anyone could blink, towering beams of blue light wrapped around the whole party, and just like that, they vanished from the spot. They step back into the fancy hall to hear a message congratulating them on finishing the second floor, but there's no time to celebrate because the system instantly sends them to the third floor, proving that the work never truly ends. Jenna begins to panic, but Han stays cool and calmly explains they're just moving up a level. Han knows the twisted rules: if you're the master, you must sweep floors back to back with no time to rest. But even he's a bit worried as he glances at his lazy followers and wonders how they'll push through the next floor with such dead weight. Just as things looked up, a message appeared that changed everything because the master had finally logged off. Ham lets out a huge sigh of relief, realizing that Hugh and the others finally get a much-needed break. The cell fairy suddenly pops up, complaining that everything was exhausting, but Han just dryly replies, "We did all the work, so why are you tired?" He quickly does the mental math, realizing that time moves 3 times faster inside, so the master won't return for 3 whole days, giving them plenty of time to get ready. He checks his stats and sees that losing a point of intelligence was a fair trade for gaining 2 in strength, making him overall more efficient. Meanwhile, the other 3 recruits are losing their minds, screaming about where they are and why they're fighting, clearly having missed the memo. Han finally understands that they are just ordinary people with 1 star, never meant for this life, so he listens as Jenna tells them to focus on surviving for now. Now he gets it, high-level heroes like the 2-star Molmont jump straight into the fight, but regular 1-star folks just panic when they get thrown in. But the 3 stars are a whole different story, they fight right away as if they were born for this, like they already know the script. Jenna snaps out of his sad thoughts by asking why he won't help his friends and telling him to try to make them a real team. Han just scoffs, wondering why he'd help those useless guys and noting that his boy isn't winning any popularity awards today. His logic is chillingly simple: they're going to die soon, and that's just cold, even for him. He looks at the scared new recruits and says they'll just have to wait and see what happens, which sounds like the perfect thing for a comforting leader to say. His inner voice is cruel, convinced that at this pace, they won't die in battle but will simply vanish without a trace. He shouts that he and Jenna will take on the next fight so everyone else can relax, but one guy tries to interrupt with a question. Han slams his hand down before he can even begin. Don't. It's incredibly frustrating because he has absolutely no patience for anyone else's opinions. Enraged, the man yanks Han's shirt and screams at him, but Han doesn't hesitate and instantly lands a hard punch on his jaw, knocking him straight to the ground. Standing over the defeated man, he mocks him for doing nothing while others bled for him, and when he turns to Jenna to ask if she's finally happy, she just gives him a sly giggle that makes me think she enjoyed the moment a little too much. The next day brings serious training, so welcome to the grind, friends. Once they've finished their basic drills, it's time to get serious because weapon training begins right now. Han swings his wooden sword while Jenna practices her bow, and their hard work pays off as both his sword fighting and shield skills get stronger. And of course, the other 3 never showed up, which didn't surprise me at all. They were probably wandering around the compound in circles, desperately searching for a way out that wasn't there, and honestly, I feel bad for them. To push his training further, Han has Genfire shoot arrows straight at him, proving he is completely crazy. He wildly swings his sword and shield to block the storm of arrows, but one slips through and pierces his leg, and he grimaces in pain, wondering if that's going to leave a nasty mark or something much worse. Jenna looks terrified, but Han just shakes it off, grabs the arrow, and yanks it right out of his thigh. This world feels different from home, but his thigh will heal soon, and when it does, a ding will sound to tell him he's unlocked a new ability called pain tolerance, which turns out to be a real bonus. With eyes glowing blue, he tells her to keep going and refuses to stop, no matter how much it hurts, proving he's truly on another level of crazy. To him, the pain is just proof he's still alive, a truth Jenna can't deny even as she screams in fear. Jenna begs Han to stop the brutal training, but he just keeps demanding more, and it is truly intense. Finally, his suffering pays off as his sword and shield abilities merge into a new, powerful skill called Basic Sword Shield Techniques. The moment they finish, a message pops up saying, "Welcome to Pick Me Up," and suddenly the master is back online. Cell suddenly appears out of nowhere, screaming for them to race to the square right now because if they're late, everyone is in big trouble. Jenna steps up with full energy from her training, impressing Han who sees her growing fast while she confidently admits she's just a driven person, and you gotta love that attitude. The other three instantly pounce on Isel, complaining about fighting again and begging to go home, but you need to read the room. That was the final breaking point, causing our tiny fairy guide, Isel, to snap so hard her anger veins bulged out. She grabs a recruit and hurls him through the air, shouting, "What do you want from me? An apology letter? I don't think that's what he wants right now." As the man screams for help, a cell erupts in a massive pink explosion, screaming that they're all doomed, while she shifts from 0 to 100 in an instant. After her little outburst, she ordered them to return, and the three recruits with comically puffed-up faces meekly did as told. And before they could even catch their breath, they were tossed into a fresh mission: wipe out every enemy, because here they go again. But Han doesn't even flinch, knowing his gear and skills are superior, so he tells Jenna to treat this like their normal training. With a loud, "Let's go," he screams and runs straight into the enemy, while Han shouts, "Get him." He even smirks to himself, thinking the third floor is a total cakewalk, and now our boy is getting cocky. With another level cleared and Jenna earning her MVP title and big rewards, she felt proud and easy about it, while Han called it boring and looked like a total show-off. She says the others won't fight, but Han doesn't care because he refuses to earn points alongside cowards. A cheeky tip from the Troll Master pops up, suggesting he make the rebellious heroes run laps to get them moving, and I absolutely love it. Han reads the note and sees that the Master's trouble is only just beginning, which means things are about to get very exciting. They get zapped back to the first floor, and Han decides the Master isn't so bad after all, maybe just planning a quick farming trip. It was just the same weak monsters they'd faced before, and these boring enemies didn't stand a chance now. Jenna wipes out her opponents to win the MVP again, flashes a happy peace sign, and clearly loves the game. Just as they thought they were safe, a system message flashed on the screen asking, "Floor 1. Will you try again?" with the "Yes" button glowing, and oh no, they couldn't help but click it. Han clenches his jaw, knowing the Master won't let them get away with an easy win, so the endless grind keeps right on going. Now they're back on the third floor for a simple mission, and Han is the one who gets the MVP award. Jenna, out of breath, admits she's tired and hopes the Master won't send them back, but Han leans on his great sword with a knowing, "Who knows," while Jenna seethes at having to babysit these useless recruits until Han finally declares, "This is it for today." Jenna doesn't buy his lie and warns that the Master has better plans, while Han insists the Master is too busy to bother with insects, making it his own last mistake. Suddenly, the earth begins to rumble, and a huge round stone tower bursts up from the ground right before them, leaving them wondering what to do next. A system message announces the start of master synthesis, and as the giant doors creak open to reveal a glowing blue interior, it doesn't look good. The three useless recruits stare in shock as one whispers, "What's that?" "It's your worst nightmare, my friend." Just before a new prompt appears with chilling instructions, drag and drop the heroes you want to sacrifice to be synthesized. Just to make sure no one missed it, another message explains the scary truth: when heroes are sacrificed, they actually die, just like it sounds. Han's eyes flare with a fierce blue light as he coldly thinks, those fools have no idea how to take a chance, and he knows exactly what comes next, right before the doors to the synthesis chamber swing open in the worst possible way. While everyone else sees a nightmare, our boy Han spots a massive chance, proving he's truly one of a kind. He knows the master is watching everything, not missing a single beat even of the little chaos happening off-screen. The master knows exactly who is pulling their weight and who is just dead weight, so he just added Han and Jenna to his favorites. Our grumpy fairy, Isel, starts pointing fingers and screaming for Jenna and Elson to get inside, while Han tries to act like a hero and tell Jenna it will be fine, though she definitely doesn't look convinced. Elson panics and begs to know what's coming, but Han, icy and calm, replies that he'll be judged for his actions, ignoring Eel's protests of innocence and simply noting that's just what people think, while Eel finds the whole thing thrilling. He yells at the coward to step inside right now, because everyone is tired of fixing his mess after he refuses to even try fighting. The heavy doors to the synthesis chamber crash shut with a loud bang, sealing our fate with no way back. A system prompt pops up, forcing you to decide if you'll combine the pieces, since there's really no other option. Inside, Elson is completely losing it, pounding on the door and screaming to be let out, creating a terrible scene. And just like that, with a magical snap of blue light, the guy melts into pure data, proving that a system update is no joke. The magic is done, Jenna levels up and gains Eagle's eyes, but she just stands there confused while Han drops a harsh truth: useless people get sacrificed here, and soon it will be her turn. He quickly glanced at the two new players, wondering which one would be nerfed next while they looked absolutely terrified. Before you can even say, Han and Toby, she screams and zooms off into the sky, proving that the fun never stops. While Toby stands frozen in pure terror, he can hardly manage to speak a single word. But Han, our resident psycho, just starts walking right up to it with no fear at all. Suddenly Toby goes crazy with laughter, convinced he's heading home, though you silly fool, you're far from safe. His tiny party is ruined by one loud scream, a sudden flash of light, and then he is instantly turned into digital dust and gone forever from the server. And just like that, Han leveled up and gained a new ability called Composure, which fits our stone-cold hero perfectly. He walks out of the room and casually tells the last guy, "You're lucky," which just shows how bold this guy is. He tells Jenna that the master wipes out players who aren't useful, then wonders why she's so sad after just venting about them. And that's when the harsh truth hits her hard: if she stops being useful, she is next. Han explains that as they climb higher, they will either be killed by monsters or sacrificed, with no other choice possible. Jenna finally realizes he has known all along, and he gives her one last piece of advice: if you want to survive, listen to your father. She understands that to survive this nightmare, she must choose the right side quickly. The next morning brought a welcome break from the old routine as it was time to train again. Jenna totally shocks Han by bowing low and saying she'll take care of him, while he just asks if she ate something strange. She lifts her gaze with a fierce, dead serious look, sealing her promise to Han and stepping fully into his team without any room for mistakes. Even Han is shocked by her strength and promises to keep her alive as long as she follows his orders, which is just classic Han behavior. But wait, another voice joins in, begging to be let inside. It's Eren, the only one left standing from the original trio. He confesses he was a coward, but he promises he's finally ready to change. Han questions why they should trust him, but Eren drops to his knees instantly, begging for one final chance as if he's finally ready to go all out. Han asks Eren if he's ever fought monsters, admitting that he, too, stepped into this wild world with no idea what he was up against. Eren stares in disbelief, murmuring that you fight so well because Hans has decided to live at any cost. He tosses a spear to Eren, saying it's perfect for beginners, then asks if he knows how to use close, mid, and long-range weapons. Jenna's eyes light up with excitement as she sees they've found the perfect fighting team: a warrior with a sword, a lancer with a spear, and an archer with a bow. For these three who began with nothing, this is their best bet, so it's time to put in the work. Now that the lecture is done, Han pulls out his weapon and shouts, "Get ready to fight." Eren stands frozen, confused because he thought you were going to teach him to fight, not leave him in trouble. Han suddenly lunges at him, screaming that he's forcing him to learn on his own so Eren can too, and that is the only kind of teaching this world has. He tells him to be thankful for training with a real person, since his only practice partner before was a scarecrow. Eren is nearly breaking under the weight of this crazy attack and can hardly keep up. He panics and shuts his eyes blindly, making a rookie mistake that could cost him dearly. Han easily sidesteps the attack and lands a strong kick right in his stomach, sending him crashing to the ground. As Eren bends over, Han scolds him, asking if that's all he can do and warning that if he were a monster, Eren would already be dead. Jenna worries Han is pushing too hard, but he won't carry anyone who can't keep up. He asks Eren if he has a family, and the poor boy stammers that a younger sister is waiting for him, so Hans replies, just soul-crushing, you're better off than me since I have no one, leaving everyone oofing in the fields. Then he presses his wooden sword right up against Eren's throat. He whispers one last warning to Eren, telling him what terrible fate awaits his sister if he fails to return alive. He said, it's better to be made than to die fighting monsters, so don't start something you can't finish. It's a harsh truth, but it's true. That was the wake-up call he needed, and you can see the fire light up in his eyes because he is finally ready to fight. Han catches the shift, smirks, and knows he's just made another monster just like himself. He says the light in your eyes is brighter than before. Just then, a pop-up appeared announcing that a blacksmith's forge had been built for 500 gems. Han knows this matters, because with freedom to move and a blacksmith nearby, a brand new part of the game is finally about to start. He calls out to Assel, who shows up with her usual attitude and rolls her eyes when he tries to order her around, acting like the same old Assel. Han skips the small talk and asks if she sent the tips to the master last time, realizing she knows how to use the internet. She brags that browsing the web is her pastime, and Han quickly realizes her tips come from a secret strategy guide. He knows exactly which post she's copying, the legendary one from Loki, and Isel is totally stunned because she knows the real deal. And then, Isel becomes a huge fangirl, talking endlessly about how Sir Loki is an absolute master of the game. Hen pretends to ask why she's so obsessed, admitting that Loki makes the impossible happen and is a true legend. She just rambles on and on about her hero, Sir Loki, and it's honestly pretty cute. After hearing her entire speech, Han bluntly replies, I feel so sorry for you, savage, which instantly freezes her in place and makes her spin around in a rage. With eyes glowing like he's about to drop the sickest beat of the century, Han drops the ultimate bombshell, I am Loki. She is freaking out and stammering, totally convinced he's lying. Han stays calm and immediately spits out an account number, and you can see the moment her shock hits her. He smirks and tells her to check it herself, even throwing in his Google account info as proof, all while acting like it's the coolest thing ever. Without a second's hesitation, she pulls out a holographic keyboard and types as if her life depended on it, muttering, really? For real? After a beat of stunned silence, she locks eyes with him and simply says, do it, leaving Han completely baffled. Then she suddenly goes into full superfan mode, begging for his autograph so she can join the Ragnar Loki club. Our boy Han stands there, clipboard in hand, looking completely lost until Isel has to tell him that he's actually at Loki's official fan cafe. He jokes deadpan that he's never heard of it, and watches the color drains from Isel's face as she realizes she's been sassing her ultimate idol. Han just shrugs it off, while I, being just a one-star pilot, don't mind the attention anyway. But the cell is in absolute panic, wondering what will happen to his home base, Niflheim, while Han has no idea. So, it turns out Niflhammer is the name of his massive personal lounge, his own little fortress tied to his game account. And when I say massive, I mean a 13-story tower packed with space for 20,000 soldiers, which is the ultimate endgame experience for real players, my friends. But what good is all that virtual power now? He thinks, so what? I rule this place now. Our kid is finally getting it. Isel is still crying about the 20,000 troops, but Han just tells her to send them away if she's so worried. She can't do it because he knows she's just a mid-level admin who gets bossed around, so he calls her out right away and it really stings. Han moves on to the big questions, confirming that the Master is a human from Earth and proving that the summoned heroes aren't robots, but real people pulled from many different worlds. She explains that the Master is just a regular player who has no idea that their heroes are real people who can actually die forever. Han asks if he can go home after clearing the 100th level, but his cell doesn't know the answer. He tries again, asking who brought her here, but she can't answer because her programming forbids it. He can't change his small hand size, so he must climb this deadly tower to find the answers himself. He asks what she can really do, and she admits she can only support the Master's choices, for she has no power of her own. He realizes that while each world plays out differently, the same cruel game is happening everywhere, turning a million worlds into a million places where people die. The game promised endless heroes and never-ending fun, but in the end, those flashy promises turned out to be nothing more than a scary lie. He finally sees that his reckless moves in the game, like creating heroes, were actually death sentences for real people, and the guilt is crushing him. This only makes him more determined, so he goes to a cell and makes an offer she can't refuse, telling her that if she wants to climb the tower, she just needs to listen to him because he will help her get there. A little while later at the training grounds, Jenna proves to be a total natural, moving way faster than a normal one-star hero. Eren is getting completely destroyed, proving that not everyone is built for this. Jenna brags that she held back on Eren, but Han warns her not to get too confident and tells her to follow him, asking if she's really finished training her top servant, which she teases him about. Suddenly, a tiny, furious voice screams from off-screen, demanding, "How dare you follow Han around?" She zooms right between them, shouting that she's Han's top servant, and the crowd goes wild. Before she can spill the beans about his secret identity, Han clamps a hand over her mouth and yells for her to get back to work. He presents the struggling, sharp-toothed fairy to a bewildered Jenna, calmly tells her not to worry because she's an idiot, then orders Eel to open the storage building so they can grab some loot. The door creaked open to show a neat stash of simple supplies, which wasn't bad for the very first day. Next, they head to the forge where Han, fed up with his battered blade, decides to craft a brand new weapon. Shihan has a wild idea. Maybe his special mix of master and hero power will let him sneak into places that are usually just for masters. As the forge bellows to life with a fierce roar, he steps inside and it's finally time to get to work. Aizel gets instantly excited and asks if he's going to craft a legendary weapon, so Han has to quickly put a stop to it. A system window pops up listing multiple penalties, showing that the facility, his skills, and the blueprints are all low tier. TLDDR, getting a good weapon is nearly impossible, but Aizel is finally catching on, and she's got a question about crafting that turns out to be real, hands-on work. This starts a minigame where he picks a puzzle difficulty, because the harder the puzzle, the bigger the reward. Our boy Han doesn't even pause, he grabs the toughest challenge and dives straight into extreme hell. As Cell panics and shouts about a triple penalty, Han stays cool and tells her to just watch the master work. Han says the mini-aim is a special title just for masters, and while few dare to take it, the rewards are absolutely amazing. He has just 3 minutes to build this jumbled pile of digital blocks as the timer begins to count down. No problem, Han says as the mini-aim begins, showing how confident this guy really is. Aizel stands frozen in shock, screaming that the legendary Thousand Hands are real and she's losing her mind, because his fingers are blurring as he snaps digital blocks together at impossible speeds. Boom! That's a huge success. He just hammered out a C- rank longsword, and considering it's his first shot, that's really not bad at all. Han proudly raises his brand new glowing blue sword while Aizel cheers wildly from the background, acting like he just won the championship. Alright, the guy's got momentum and is tackling even more puzzles. And boom! Windows of the system flood his screen, dropping a bow, a spear, and a shield that are all C rank, but hey, it's a start. After only 3 items, he stops and blames the bad materials, but Cell asks why, while Han acts cool and says improving it would be too flashy and might make the master suspicious. With a sudden poof, they vanish and reappear in the next stage, and now that you're here, welcome to the jungle. Before the monsters can even say hi, Jenna shoots an arrow that turns into a laser beam and blasts right through one of them. So they finally reached the 4th floor, where Jenna was thrilled by her awesome new bow, only for Han to reassure her that no one else could get it since it was made just for her. He immediately starts barking orders for the fight, giving Jenna the harpy, putting Eren on bodyguard duty for her, and leaving Han to handle everything else, so Eren nervously agrees and thinks, "Good luck, buddy." The harpy screeches and dives straight at them to lead the charge, and now here we go. Eren instantly snaps, waving his spear around like a useless wet noodle. A warning flashed on his screen that his strength had dropped by 30% because of fear, making Han wince while the rookie trembled with panic. Eren panics and flails his sword uselessly until Jenna slaps him hard to snap him out of it. "We'll die if we fail again," she shouts, questioning how hard she'd have to hit someone to make their nose bleed until her words finally spark a new focus in Eren, who promises to give his all as they stand against the horde together. As their tank finally gives out, the team joins forces to slice through the monsters, carving a path right through the battlefield. With the stage clear, Eren levels up, Han earns MVP, and the whole party grabs some awesome loot. The moment the adrenaline wears off, Eren crumples to the ground, retching from the sheer nightmare he just witnessed. He completely failed the level and asked Han what would happen next, but then a system message appeared saying Eren had been added to favorites, which was quite a surprise. Han tells him that the master is not just keeping him alive but favoring him, leaving Eren staring with a face so shocked it looks like it has stopped working. As soon as I made it, he let out a relieved scream of pure joy, so happy that he was finally alive. Jenna looks smug and calls him his second-in-command, but Han instantly shoots that idea down. The word subordinates makes him hesitate as he walks toward the armory, wondering what he is thinking. He thought to himself that if anyone was truly his most trusted underling, it would have to be Niflheimr Surus. He still thinks about his old squad, a legendary group of 5 level 99 heroes with custom skills he crafted himself, back when that true whale player was in the game. With him currently away from the game, his vice master and the wise Urith were likely running Niflheimer, and he often wondered if those brilliant minds were actually just AI. But now, stuck in this twisted world, he has a terrifying truth: my friend, they weren't AIs at all. And just like that, the scene snaps right back to that same headquarters. Cyrus and Urith sit down for a very serious talk. Sir tells Urith she's off to investigate and makes her the boss of everything. She needed to figure out what in the world had happened to their master. Back at Han, a storm of messages floods the screen as the boss spends a fortune upgrading his home base. A new restaurant rises, the training center grows stronger, and the workshops get a huge upgrade. As the master goes shopping and the main square upgrades to a fancy level 2, the whole place gets a major glow-up. Jenna and Eren stand speechless as the instant makeover happens right before their eyes. They're guessing the master is a godlike wizard, but Han just smirks because he's not magic, he's just rich enough to buy every upgrade. He thinks the master is having a blast playing the game, completely unaware that his real reactions and unique battles are just an act. Han figured the master is a well-paid office worker who can afford to game all day, and Aizel is thrilled because that's way better than a broke student, especially since he just spent 65,001 on fancy combo moves. Hen understands this better than anyone. Picking me up is a classic pay-to-win game, and having a paying customer is always a good thing. Just as we reached Q, a system alarm blared and the master began a summoning, promising to be quite an adventure. As the portal bursts open with a mighty roar, Han beams with glee, finally ready to host some guests for his housewarming. You can bring new heroes into the story in 2 different ways. You can call forth spirits with gold if you're just starting out, but if you want the strongest ones, you'll need to spend your special gems. Of course, the gem summons are way better. It's a classic gotcha trick to get you to open your wallet, and Han knows what's up. Suddenly, 10 strangers appear on the steps looking totally confused, and one of them asks where they are because they just left their own home. They begin to panic, convinced they're dreaming, while Han watches them with a grim look, remembering exactly how that fear felt when it was him. Han thrusts his sword at a burly bearded stranger, who jumps and demands to know who they are. He says he won't explain things right now, just survive first and I'll tell the ones who make it. The cell takes over from there, shouting to grab everyone's attention and calling out for anyone with a trade, like a carpenter. She quickly lists the jobs: blacksmith, tanner, cook, and when the scared crowd shouts for answers, she just screams, "Shut up," leaving Jenna confused while Han instantly understands that Aizel is organizing everyone for the new places. He worries that if those poor souls who died before had been called up now, they could have lived on as non-combatants, proving once again how sentimental he is. Everything clicks into place for him as the waiting room shifts and grows right along with them, just like the realm of Niflheimer. With 10 brand new, terrified faces staring back at her, the cell wasted no time and immediately started sorting out the fresh meat. Jenna is still in the dark about what's happening, but our boy Han understands right away as they hand out rolls and the base starts to look like a real town. As the cell gives orders, Han mutters that now even useless ones can handle non-combat jobs and not have to die needlessly, showing how sentimental he is. Suddenly, a message popped up on the screen, and there it was, a fresh patch update waiting to be installed. The lounge system is shifting, so it's time to start making parties. Han keeps on talking nonsense, saying that if you don't have special skills, you'd better find a way to be useful because people who are just a waste of food won't last long. Han knows the truth. The master is about to throw these poor 1-stars into the dungeon to cull the herd, leaving only the strongest to survive. That portal shines with a scary light, like a hungry machine ready to gulp down these poor, unready souls whole. And just like that, our first casualty is John, who's already dead, making that start off surprisingly fast. Jenna is terrified, but Han doesn't care, saying there's no point explaining anything to people who have already died on the lowest level, and that is just ice cold. Another friend fell to the dust, leaving Teddy lifeless, yet our hero, always hopeful, notes that even as 2 gave up the ghost, 2 others found a way to keep on living. The survivors are a total mess, absolutely panicking about fighting monsters, with one guy named Descartes screaming that he can't do it, making for a pretty bad start, buddy. Seeing the fear, Eren jumps in to fight, but Asel quickly stops him, saying, "Not your fight, kid. Back off." Jenna looks shocked by Eren's bravery, so Han sighs deeply and orders a cell to let him join the fight, since he really needs more experience in battle anyway. So Asel asks the master, and to her surprise, he says yes. As he walks away, Han shouts his name one last time. A little tip pops up saying that heroes who love fighting do better in it, which is pretty strange. Han warns Eren not to get used to this, so Eren understands and the group marches into the dungeon together. Now that the party is over, Jenna immediately stretches out and complains about eating only potatoes, while Han thinks she has no tact and is right to think that. "Oh, look," says Han, pointing to the blinding sky that seems to stare back like a watching eye, and Jenna goes stiff as a board, which probably means the bright light is hiding a secret. But Han just smirks, whispering that the gods ignore everyone, so they won't care about your potato troubles, Jenna. He says their feelings are just sent to the master as simple data points, like an angry emoji showing they hated the food. Just then, a message arrived with a bang, and the stage was suddenly empty. The fresh recruits step out covered in dirt but still alive, and when Han asks Eren how many he killed, the boy proudly says 1, earning a nod of satisfaction from Han who knows the job was done right. Heading back, Jenna just wonders if they are finally free from potatoes, thinking that a girl can dream anything. They walk back to see the lounge has turned into a real dining hall, which feels just like finding amazing loot in a game. Jenna and Eren are so happy they're already dreaming of fancy meals like lamb steak and turkey. Nope, it turns out dinner is still just a giant bowl of potatoes, and the writer is just messing with them on purpose now. The new cook, an older man named Dolph, is going crazy because they only have potatoes and no other ingredients to use. Han's eyes narrow as he realizes the cook's pathetic excuse isn't enough to impress him. A quick check proves it, Dolph is a total beginner with no real skills and he lied on his resume. Han leans back with his arms crossed, noticing that this guy can't cook at all, so he scans the room looking for anyone who might actually know how to fix a meal. He shouts Chloe's name, causing her to look up in shock as you are suddenly ordered to cook, a promotion straight from the front lines. He signs off on the change, officially swapping out Dolph, and just like that, Dolph is out on the job, which is pretty brutal. Chloe looks so anxious you can see the sweat rolling down her face, and poor girl, she never asked for this. Dolph begins to panic, but Han stops him, giving him credit for trying while scolding him for lying about something so easy to check, calling it a rookie mistake. Han warns that our boy can be terrifying one last time before a feast of roasted potatoes, fries, and stew fills the table, leaving Jenna amazed at how one vegetable can taste so many ways thanks to Chloe's special sauces. Just then, Han grabbed everyone's attention and shouted, "Eat quickly while I speak, and I'll only say this once." He tells them to pass his words on to the next batch of newbies, because if they want to live, they have to listen. Later that night, the recruits share what they learned, and Eno questions Han, who is just as new to this as they are. Enoch asks what he and Chloe should do, and Han explains they are the carpenter and the cook who can help the team in many other ways. Dolph insists he can be a carpenter, but Han shuts him down and threatens to throw him into the synthesis chamber if he ever lies again. Han spreads the hard truth, safer non-combat jobs are few and far between, and anyone who isn't the best will be pushed out to face danger. Starting on the second day, life in the sanctuary starts to shift as the base grows stronger. Han leans against the wall in the fresh training area, looking completely unimpressed and asking, "Only 3? I'm a tough man to please." Only 3 new recruits show up for training, but Han doesn't mind since he was getting bored fighting Eren. Han winces as the brutal training tears him apart, realizing that only in this world could he grow so fast and bridge such a massive gap in strength. Jenna kept practicing hard and hit level 5 with her dagger skills at level 2, and you've got to admit, girl, that's awesome. Eren works harder than anyone else, yet despite his best efforts, he still can't unlock a useful skill and just has the worst luck of them all. Even though the 3 new trainees have all mastered level 1 swordsmanship, sometimes that's just how the game plays out, folks. The others are blown away by Han's power and assume it's just because he's a higher level, but he smiles mysteriously and says, "You'll understand soon enough." A few days later, another free 10 poll happens, but this time Han doesn't lift a finger since Eren and his new trainee handle the orientation on their own. Now that killing only one person works so much better, Jenna watches as more and more people arrive, and Han warns that this endless flow will never stop. Jenna starts to worry because Han knows the master is still training hard to prepare his main team for the 5th stage, which is a completely different challenge. Every 5 stages, the game suddenly gets much harder. This is a boss fight where you have to be ready or you'll get crushed. Han silently carries the heavy truth that even with all their training, many of them will still die, hiding it from the others so they don't have to know. Alright, bam, the party gets zapped up to the 4th floor. The mission is simple, wipe out anything that dares to move. Han tries to calm the nervous new meat shields by telling them not to worry and that they have this in the bag, explaining that their super important job is just to stand there and be a wall without even attacking, which sounds like an amazing gig, right? Even though the pep talk was great, the second the fight began, the new guys started screaming like maniacs, proving they weren't brave at all. Han's voice roared from behind like a wise master, reminding us that even the weak have their own way to fight. Instead of fighting alone, unite your power into one mighty force and see how they stand their ground. Eren spots his opening, rushes right through the line of shields with his spear, and skewers a monster, which is going to be a very messy fight. Meanwhile, our boy Han is hanging out on the sidelines, not because he's lazy, but because his team needs the practice. Finally, the stage is clear, the new team members get a boost and level up, Jenna shines as the MVP with all the loot, and everyone else feels like they had a great day. The newcomers high-five each other, but Han knows he can't take down the 5th floor alone, so he has to train these kids up fast. Back at base, the new recruits are feeling like they just conquered the world, claiming it was easy as pie, though we all know better. Even Jenna is so impressed she gives a rare smile, while Han just quietly agrees, probably taking all the credit for it in his head. While the master was gone, the team stayed busy grinding out goods with a blacksmith and a tanner to set up a whole production line. They're churning out simple E-rank gear that's not much, but it's better than nothing and gives new recruits a real chance to survive. Han, Jenna, and Eren, the main heroes, walked away with every single piece of the best treasure. Not everyone got a happy ending, because 3 inactive heroes were turned into resources for being useless, including Dolph the Liar who claimed to be a cook, serving as a warning to all the liars out there. After a few days of hard work, the new recruits are getting full of themselves, with one already complaining and begging to climb up to the next floor. Han turns to Cell and asks the big question, are we heading to the 5th floor today? Cell says yes, leaving Jenna completely shocked. Han drops a classic dad warning on the recruits, but this time it's different, telling them not to get too comfortable before they all nod like they totally got it. With a sudden flash of light and a poof, they vanish and land in a creepy ruined city dominated by a broken tower, a place that looks anything but friendly. The team steps out in a glowing blue circle right in the middle of a trash street, but there's no welcome wagon for them. Eren looks around confused, asking where the monsters are, but Han steps right in to lead the way toward the city center. Han feels his instincts buzzing because there are no monsters or people around, making him realize this isn't a mission to bring people under control. And right then, one of the new trainees lets out a blood-curdling scream, pointing a shaking finger at the wall, leaving us wondering just what terrible sight he found. So, there he saw a skeleton tied up and left to rot, and that wasn't a good sign at all. The entire team is shaken, Jenna points out the old blood stains, and Han confirms they're all right about how messed up this situation has become. Han, the strategist, tells Jenna to climb the clock tower and watch over them, a classic move. Han shouts up, "What do you see?" and she starts by saying, "Just the city," but you can hear her voice waver. Her face twists in horror as she whispers, "I really hope I'm seeing this wrong," while down on the ground, Eren loses his cool and demands, "What is it, Miss Jenna? Spit it out." You can see the sweat rolling down her face as she tries to process the sheer terror of what's in front of her, Ryder, and honestly, this suspense is killing me. She finally screams to tell them that a huge swarm of goblins is outside the city and charging toward them. Han presses for the number, and her voice breaks when she finally speaks it. The system window pops up to confirm that survival on the 5th floor is over as thousands of goblins of unknown level attack, and oh, this is bad. Eren panics until Jenna says the number is real, but Han stays calm and simply tells her to drop to the ground. Han snaps into command mode and warns us that what he calls survival isn't about obeying him, but simply holding on long enough to live, a lesson he finds easy to give but hard for us to accept. A recruit suggests hiding, but Han slams into a glowing red, "Access denied" wall, proving the game forces you to fight. Eren asks how long they have left to live, but Han lies and says only 10 minutes once they arrive. But we, the audience, know the truth. Our boy Han is secretly thinking, our luck is terrible, he's lying to them, and then the timer pops up to reveal a full 30 minutes instead of 10, meaning he lied by a massive 20 minutes. As they sprint for cover, Han recalls a scary stat about their mission: only 9% of teams make it, so he shouts for everyone to dive into the alley while warning them that climbing buildings will just trap them. One recruit asks if they can find a better spot, but Han shuts him down because there's no time to be picky. They found their perfect spot to fight, a narrow corner that traps the enemy, and Han thought it was a brilliant move. He draws up a plan to force them into a narrow path where they can take down one goblin at a time, their only hope against thousands. He arranges the team so he and Eren each guard one alley while the recruits take the third, telling them to take turns fighting to save their strength. Jenna waits right in the middle, holding back her arrows until Han gives the signal, making her the secret weapon the team needs. With time ticking away, they're frantically piling up a barricade while Han warns that if even one goblin breaks through, they're all dead. Han stares at the 30-minute timer, realizing with dread that this isn't a game but 30 real, agonizing minutes ticking away. Just as we reached the end of the line, the first growls bellowed down the alley, and the first wave had finally arrived. A terrifying face with glowing red eyes and huge tusks fills the opening, showing just how deep into nightmare fuel the artist has gone. And there it is, the timer flashes bright red and counts down from 29 minutes and 59 seconds as the beast smashes right through the useless barricade, prompting Han to yell, "Damn it, that was a waste of effort." No time to complain, so Han leaps forward, his sword flashing as he cuts down the first monster. But right behind it comes the rest of the horde, a literal flood of monsters rushing into the passage. With Han shouting a fierce new plan to build a wall from their enemies' bodies and Eren screaming in agreement, the whole situation is getting dangerously intense. Bam! Hans crashes his shield into a monster, knocking it backward into its friends, but it's a losing fight because for every beast he sends away, 2 more scream and claw to take their place. Jenna watches the chaos unfold while shouting, "Let me know anytime you're tired," as if he's just going to raise his hand in the middle of it all. He keeps his hands busy blocking and stabbing the monsters, even taking a moment to taunt them, proving he's got a crazy mind. He cuts through another one while muttering, "These bastards, seriously, Jahan, seriously." Eren, now coated in slime, frantically shouts, "We just need to make it 10 more minutes, right?" while the poor fool still believes the lie. Han yells back while lying through his teeth, asking if I've ever lied, then admits yes, pointing out that he is lying right now. The clock ticks down the last 26 minutes and 48 seconds, and his small white lie is the only thing keeping them from falling apart right now. Alright, friends, the goblin horde is throwing a terrible party, and our heroes are barely keeping up. He barks orders at Gib to swap places with Hansen right away, leaving no room for any nice words. Giddy, bless his tired heart, tries to speak up, but Han just yells, "Shut up, do as I say, wow great leader," while staring at Gid like a drained battery that has no juice left. It's not just that the guy is weak, but his moves were a total mess. He got so excited he burned out all his energy, which is the kind of rookie mistake that costs you the game. With every slash, he clears the path like a goblin-slaying machine, needing only one cut and a quick repeat to keep the fight moving. Each goblin is just a fool on its own, but when they join together, they become a scary endless wave of ugliness, like a Minecraft spawn point that went terribly wrong. The line holding them back is about to break, so Han yells for a quick change while everything starts to go wrong. Hansen walks to the front without asking questions, landing in the one spot where everyone is trying to kill you, the absolute worst place to be. Han orders Jenna to shield Gid and grab her arrows, showing he's already planned for everything. Jenna is ready, shouts that she's been waiting, flips into the air to handle the remaining enemies, and suddenly an arrow hits a goblin skull right on target. Meanwhile, Eren, who looks like he just rolled in a pile of goblin guts, asks Han if the 10 minutes are up because he is absolutely done with this. Han screams in frustration after just 5 minutes of pure agony. Just as you think things can't get worse, another Tusk nightmare charges forward with eyes glowing red with rage. Jenna spots it coming and is totally fed up with these endless things that just never stop. Suddenly, wham! A monster's claws tear right through Gid's chest, and an artist complains that it's too graphic, while a system alert warns that his bleeding will now tick away his health like a countdown timer. Jenna is panicking, but Han stays cool and simply orders Hansen to take Gid's place and ignore him, a move that is savage yet necessary. He snaps at the team to stop acting like children, shouting that Gid will heal if they hurry back, and adds a big "if" to their friendly banter. Poor Gid is completely broken, his stats slashed by 30% from a fear that leaves him staring at his own hand in pure terror. Han doesn't mind the wound, but he's furious about the debuff, so he screams his anger at the goblin standing closest to him. He bellows at the pests and drives his shield hard into a goblin's face, making a crunching sound. He yells at Gid to snap out of it, asking if he's trying to get us all killed. He tells Jenna and Gid that they must stop the bleeding right now, or Hansen will die if he doesn't change. The line pauses just a second before Han dives back in with glowing blue eyes, showing us he's powering up in that classic way. He kicks a goblin back into the pack and shouts at them to get back, even though they clearly aren't listening. But for every person he pushes aside, 10 more rush in to fill the spot, proving that this fight will only make him lose. Suddenly, a fresh crisis hits when Hansen screams that his sword is blunt, proving these weapons break way too easily. Han looks at the bleeding Gid and asks if he can go back in, but Gid grabs a fresh sword and says he's ready, so the kid proves his courage. They switch places, and Han orders Hansen to fall back and fix his blade. Han knew this would happen. The sword was an upgrade, but it remained just a basic iron blade, far from the legendary gear needed to finish the game. But does Han care? Not a bit. If his sword fails, he'll just smash them with his shield, which is pretty resourceful if you ask me. Eren is pushing to his breaking point, but Han won't let him complain, just snapping at him to swap places with Jenna so there's no time for anyone to rest. Jenna storms in to tell Eren to stop being a hero and take a break, proving that at least one person on this team has his back. Han screams that only 3 minutes are left, curses at how the timer feels like an eternity, and immediately orders Eren to swap with Jenna, arguing that even 10 seconds is too long a break. As Hansen, looking completely exhausted, swaps back to the front, the frantic spinning goes on, and it's just painful to watch. Ham tells Jenna to lay down covering fire for Hansen while managing the mounting pressure, though they are all running on empty and facing a crisis. Jenna's quiver is nearly empty, yet they must use every last bullet because if the enemy breaks through, they will all die. With a heavy heart but steady resolve, Jenna drops her arrow and obeys, knowing the fate of everything hangs in the balance. She fires off her last shots and manages to skewer 2 goblins at once, proving she's a true legend. Her aim is so sharp that one arrow flies straight into a goblin's glowing red eye, a perfect bullseye. Just as Gid is completely worn out on the front line and desperate for a break, a sword suddenly punches right through his gut before he can even step back. Jenna quickly brings the goblin down, but she freezes in shock when Gid suddenly falls. Then the system message flashes as Gid stands on the edge of death, and honestly, that's not a good look. His health bar looks like a joke now, so Han screams in rage and swings his sword with all his might. Jenna is freaking out over Gid, torn between pulling the weapon out and fearing he might bleed out faster. Hansen, completely drained and unaware of what just occurred, begs Gid to take over for just 30 seconds. As a huge goblin leaps at Han with a spear, the boy snatches it from the beast's armpit and shoves it back into the charging horde, pulling off a true Giga-Chad moment. Han darts over to Hansen, screaming for him to move left, only for Hansen to cry out about Gid, while Han replies that Gid is just resting for a very long time. Since a window suddenly pops up announcing Gid's death, his fighting spirit will live on. Hansen has no choice but to trust him and finally take his well-deserved break. But to Jenna, he reveals the hard truth: Gid is already dead, so she must rush to help instead of staying with him. The fight goes on, pushing them to grind XP in the heat of the moment while Han's swordsmanship levels up right before their eyes. Jenna screams to ask how much time is left, but Han just shouts back that he has not a single second to check, and it is so stressful. System notifications are exploding everywhere like a rave of skill awakenings and level-ups as they evolve right under the pressure of battle. Han roars in anger, screaming that all this waking up is pointless if they're all going to die anyway, and honestly, he's right. Just then, Hansen screams as another alert flashes on the screen, and I groan because this is exactly what I needed. Now Hansen is losing his blood and his strength is fading, and it just seems like the fight will never end. Right away, goblins crowd him and he screams for Han to save him, and things look bad for the team. His last cry is a desperate shout of his leader's name, and it hits right in the fields. Han just watches as Hansen vanishes into the goblin horde, leaving Han's face hardened into a mask of silent rage. He shouts his orders to Jenna and Eren, telling them to stick with him because they can afford to cry once they get out of here alive, but not a second of their time can be wasted on tears right now. And just like that, another one is gone, with the system chiming in to tell us that Hansen has died. Now only 3 are left, standing back to back as their final shield against the entire horde of goblins. Jenna spoke the fear in everyone's heart: are we really going to die here? Han suddenly sees a way out and shouts at Jenna to climb the wall behind her without asking questions, but when she hesitates because she doesn't want to leave them, he insists he will follow and urges her to go as the next wave crashes down with a new plan in his voice. Forget fighting one by one, they need to stop the crowd, and they need it right now, so he unleashes a huge sweeping strike that pushes back a whole mob of goblins at once to clear the way. Very nice. Jenna reaches the top of the wall and yells, "I'm making it. Hurry, the clock is running out." Han grabs hold, swings his focus to Eren, and shouts, "Hold my hand. This isn't a moment for love, folks, it's just the clock." Eren nods in agreement, his face set with a grim look of pure determination. Han grabs his arm and with a huge effort heaves Eren right toward Jenna, but wait a minute. Just as he was about to climb, an attacking goblin stabbed him in the leg, and you have to give these creatures a break. Screaming at Jenna to grab Eren, Han leaps back into the fight with eyes blazing like the star of the show. Han yells and slices right off your foot while Eren screams in pure terror. Now Eren gets his own death notification, but Han screams and pulls him back to life. Down below, the goblins are getting smart. They're forming a gruesome